Hello everyone, good morning. Today is 26th of June and I welcome you all to the Hindu newspaper analysis discussion. So guys, in the today's video, we are going to discuss the entire analysis of Hindu newspaper. We'll take all the articles along with their background and the potential way forwards. And I would also like to tell you that you can download the explainer or synoptic notes of this session from our Telegram channel. The link for Telegram channel is given in description box in YouTube. Now, first of all, let's see the overview of entire newspaper so that we can understand that which articles are actually important in the today's newspaper. Okay, so here we have the Delhi edition. Here we have the Delhi edition. A minute. So the first article after meeting Shah, Biren says will reach out to Kuki. So this is the Manipur issue that is going on, where the disputes in the tribes are going on because of the initial demand that the Metis should be given the tribal scheduled tribe status. Now these discussions are going on. You are not required to drag them every day. So not important for the exam point of view. Then guys, here we have one important article, Modi CC deals on strategic partnership. We'll see this article. Then coming to the city section, we have the regional issues that are there. Okay, for exam point of view, guys, you are not required to go too much in detail in these particular articles. Largely these advertisements and all such kind of things, and political issues are there. If you are having some different edition of the newspaper, such as the Hyderabad, Bangalore edition, these regional sections will be different. But largely, these type of things are only contained here. So directly we'll reach to editorial section. Directly we'll reach to the editorial section, and here we have important articles. First article, Manipur, this is not a time for finger pointing. Now guys, the article is actually talking about the different political parties. They are finding the fault of each other. Okay, they are playing a kind of a blame game rather than identifying the real problems as why these particular things have happened. Okay, now understand this particular thing, guys, that we have seen first of all so many of articles on the Manipur crisis, and second thing is that, guys, you are not required to go too much in the nitty-gritties. Okay, whatever are there. However, guys, below we have another article, that is outreach to diaspora and statesmanship. Now this is an important article with respect to the examination. We'll take this article. Here the article talk about opposition parties have little more than rivalry with the BJP in common. Not important article, political article. Such kind of things are not asked in the examination. Then further moving on, the United States of India, will see this article, what it is talking about, the divided house of JACs. Okay, so guys, basically the article is talking about that how the joint action committees, they are regrouping, and what will be the political stakes of the Bharat Rashtra Samiti BRS government and all such kind of things. So with respect to the Telangana, okay, the political stakes the article is actually talking about. Okay, one thing, guys, you need to understand that when we talk about certain articles, they happen to be more politicized. These kind of things you are not required to go too much in detail for the exam point of view. So understand this issue also. Then text and context. Now this section might not be there in your regional sections, but it does comes in Delhi edition. Okay, so if it is not there in your section, then you can see here the India US deal for 31 MQ9B drones. So this is a deal that has been signed between the India and America. We'll take this particular article with respect to the examination. Then we have this article on the Titan tragedy. Okay, so guys, we'll see this particular article with respect to the exam. For example, what is the difference between submersible and a submarine? Okay, we'll take this particular article. Then after that, moving on, we have pricing terms of MQ9B drone deal. So already there is an article in the text and context. With that, I will cover this particular article. Okay, while Manipur is burning, PM silent, Shah ineffective. So these political statements that are being given, Modi government is trying to strangulate MG Narega, not required to go in these political statements. Okay. Then guys, further moving on in this particular direction, here Meghalaya Tribal Council to oppose Uniform Civil Code says it will affect traditions. Okay, so if you remember, guys, if you're following regularly, we have seen many editorials on the Uniform Civil Code that have already come in the past week. So uniform civil code means one uniform personal laws for all the religion, all the communities. Right now, Muslims, they have their own personal laws. Other communities, they have their own personal laws. Personal laws pertain to the matters of the marriage, adoption, divorce, and inheritance. Recently, the 22nd Law Commission, they have given their recommendation, and then this recommendation they have provided that we should have a discussion with respect to the UCC. So many people will support it, many people will reject the idea. So Meghalaya's tribal council have opposed the uniform civil code. They will say that by this a kind of a homogenization would come, and we India respect always the diversity, and tribal cultures might also be impacted by this. Okay. Then we have the political article, not important. Now here we have some important case studies that we are going to see with respect to the GS paper number 3. So we'll take this particular article. Then after that, moving on here, Vikram Pragyan to return for another tryst with the moon. We'll see this particular article also. Then on world page, okay, Wagner chief to move to Belarus in a deal brokered by the Lukashenko. So basically, guys, we see this. See, first of all, when we talk about the Wagner Group is a group. Wagner Group, it is a group of fighters. Okay, now earlier they were supportive of the Russia. Now there are the differences that have come. Understand one more important thing, that as this Russia-Ukraine war is going on, many of these issues every day are being reported with respect to the war and the dynamics of the war, the different parties in the war, etc. Again, are you required to go too much in detail in this thing? No. Okay. Then further moving on. Okay, after that, we have this money wise page today. Monday business page doesn't come, so we have this money wise page. Understanding interest rate hikes. Okay, so basically this particular article, it contains the advice with respect to the investing money, FD versus stocks, where it will be more beneficial. For exam, much important substance is not there in this article for us. Investment related things are there. Then we have this sports page, and in the last, after the sports page, there is this science page that is there. Many students also say that, sir, we don't have this science page also in our edition. So don't worry, we'll cover this article. Okay. So the science page, did climate change really make UP's deadly heat waves twice as likely? We'll see this article also with respect to the examination. Okay, so guys, I hope that you have got an idea with respect to the important articles. Now let's take all the relevant articles one by one in the detail. Okay. So in every class, we start with the GS quotation, and the idea of GS quote is to give you some ideas that you can use in your exams, GS 1, 2, 3, 4 questions, and in essay also. So today we have the quotation from Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding father of US. Thomas Jefferson says that information is the currency of democracy. Okay, so in any economy, currency is something which makes the economy functional. In the same way, information makes the democracy functional. If information would not be there, the empowerment of citizens cannot happen, and empowerment of citizens, the core idea of a democracy. Okay, so information is the currency of democracy. You can use this particular idea in GS paper number 2, governance and governance related issues. In GS paper number 4 also, in topic number 7, there is the topics related to the information sharing. There also you can use this particular idea. Okay. Now, starting up with the first article for today. Okay. Modi CC Inc. deal on strategic partnership. Now, basically guys, when we talk about the India and Egypt have maintained the diplomatic relations since 1947. So just after the independence of India, India signed the diplomatic relations with the Egypt. Now, when we talk about Egypt and India, both countries are the developing countries, and at the same time, both the countries have a lot of complementaries with the each other, and these complementaries can be helped. Okay. Now, let's understand basically some of the low hanging fruits that are there between the India and Egypt. First of all, guys, when we talk about the India and Egypt, understand this particular thing. First of all, $6061 million. Okay, $6061 million. This was the bilateral trade between the India and Egypt last year. Now, this particular economic trade shows that Basically, Egypt happens to be a very important partner. Then, guys, further, when we talk about the India and Egypt, Egypt, first of all, there are a lot of things which Egypt requires from India, and these particular things are the refined petroleum products, refined petroleum products, then wheat, then automobiles, and then drugs. So these are the things on which Egypt depends on the imports. And when we talk about, guys, India, so we know this particular thing that India has one of the largest petro refinery facilities in the world. Secondly, in terms of the wheat net output of India, in terms of the wheat production, is also happens to be one of the highest. Then in automobiles also, India has developed its prowess, and in drugs we are called as the pharmacy of the world. So we can provide all these particular things to the Egypt. Then next thing is that, guys, Egypt right now is looking forward to 49 mega projects. Egypt is going for the infrastructural revamp, and 49 mega infrastructure projects they are looking forward to build. Here, India can again provide the manpower, labor. India can provide the expertise to Egypt. So these are some of the low hanging fruits that are there between the India and Egypt. Okay, now in order to further enhance, on this particular thing, recently Prime Minister had made a visit to Egypt. First he went to US and then he went to Egypt. And these are the key takeaways which I am going to discuss, which have been made between the India and Egypt. First of all, guys, the Egypt has given to our Prime Minister the highest honor of their country, that is the Order of the Nile. The Order of the Nile. So the Order of the Nile is the highest honor, highest recognition that Egypt gives, and it has been given to the Prime Minister of India. Then the four key or the four most important agreements have been signed between India and Egypt. The first agreement is with respect to enhancing the status of India, of the Egypt. We have signed the strategic partnership. So diplomatic relations were signed in 1947, and after that, now the strategic partnership between the India and Egypt has been signed. Now when we talk about the strategic partnership, it concerns many areas. For example, it will be taking over the trade element, it will be taking over the investment element, it will be taking over the intelligence, and the defense cooperation also can happen whenever the two countries signed the strategic agreement. Okay, then apart from this strategic agreement, it has also been provided that India and Egypt specifically would be focusing on green and renewable collaboration. Then apart from this strategic partnership, other three agreements are: number two is the agreement on the agriculture. Third is the agreement on archaeology and antiquities, and the fourth is the agreement on the competition law. Okay, now in the field of agriculture, I told you that India exports a lot of wheats to the Egypt. So basically, India will be exporting more and more agricultural products to the Egypt, and India will also be giving some technical know-how to the Egypt, so that Egypt can also enhance their agriculture capabilities around the Nile River basin. So this is then on archaeology and antiquities. Now you might be knowing about the world famous pyramids of Giza. Egypt happens to be one of the oldest civilization, and at the same time India, also being the seat of the Indus civilization, have hosted one of the oldest civilizations. So both of the countries have rich archaeological remains which are still buried. So on that, the collaboration and cooperation will be done between the India and Egypt. And then on the competition law. So basically, guys, we see this thing that with the coming of these tech companies, a lot of monopolization is being formed. So in order to break that monopoly, in order to ensure the free competition, the competition laws would be suitably be implemented in both of the countries. Okay, so this is something that is there. Then, guys, one more understand this thing: the competition law happens to be one of a very important global theme as well, because we see that today the tech companies such as the Google, Microsoft, Amazon, for example, they have created a kind of a monopoly which might disturb the competition. So developing countries, they even want to ensure that the competition laws are being followed even by these tech companies. That is also an agenda, but it will be taken up laterwards. So these are all the important things that are there. After that, guys, both India and Egypt, they have also discussed the cooperation at the G20. Now, you might also be knowing that India is the chair of G20 for 2023, and G20 summit will be hosted somewhere in the month of September. So, what common agendas or what things should be raised into the G20 on the behalf of the developing world? This particular thing has also been discussed between the India and Egypt. Then these are some of the locations that are there in Egypt which are important for the exam, guys. You should know them and you should keep it in your mind if a question may come. If a question comes. So Prime Minister has visited the Heliopolis Commonwealth War Grave Cemetery. Okay. Now, if a question comes that recently it was in news, it is in which country, then you need to know that it is in Egypt. So this war cemetery, okay, it has paid homage to 4,300 Indian soldiers who got perished in Egypt and Eden during the World War I. So you might be knowing, guys, that during the World War I, India was the colony of Britain, and at that point of a time, Indian soldiers also participated in the World War I. So these many soldiers who got perished, in their remembrance, their remembrance is there in this war cemetery. Okay, so the second, he also met with the Indian diaspora there and also planned to visit Al Hakim Mosque. So if a question comes, then Al Hakim Mosque is in Egypt. So you should remember these location based, because many number of times the questions on such kind of a mapping based entries have been asked, that recently it was in news, it is in which country. So this is our these are all the key takeaways from this. Moreover, guys, if you remember, on Saturday we have discussed one editorial also on this particular line. Okay, so complement that editorial also with this. So that is all about it. And now moving to the next article. Did climate change really make UP's deadly heat wave twice as likely? Now, we will see this particular article with respect to the GS paper 1 and GS paper number 3, that is climate change. Climate change. Okay. Now, first of all, let me tell you the context and then we'll go in this particular article as what the article is actually talking about. Okay. So basically, recently, guys, there was a heat wave. There was a heat wave that that made a landfall in Uttar Pradesh, and because of this deadly heat wave, 100 lives have been claimed, and it is being called as one of the most deadliest heat wave till date. Okay. Now, one of the report, that is one of a report that was one of a report by the US non-profit Climate Central, they have came out with this climate shift index. And in this climate shift index, they are predicting that this particular heat wave of the Uttar Pradesh, it is because of the climate change that has happened. They have attributed this heat wave to the climate change. They have said that this particular heat wave was actually made double deadly because of the climate change. Now, this particular article is actually talking about, or it is investigating that whether really the climate change played a role or not. Okay. Now, when we talk about the climate changes influence on any phenomena, for example, climate change can have in phenomena on rainfall, it can have phenomena on flood, it can have an impact on the cyclone. So anything could be impacted by climate change. When we talk about the impact of climate change on the heat waves, it has been said that we need to know two things. Number one is detection and number two is attribution. Number one is detection and number two is attribution. Now, first of all, you need to detect that there is a heat wave. Now, how we will detect the heat wave? For that particular thing, we need to know first of all the normal temperature of a particular region. Now, normal temperature is seen on the basis of the long-term historical data. For example, guys, let's say I'll take example. Suppose between the 14 to 20 June, 14 to 20 June, in last 100 years, let's say in Uttar Pradesh, temperature is 40 degrees Celsius, 40 degrees Celsius. Okay, suppose this year also the temperature is in the range of 40 degrees Celsius. So it is a normal temperature for this particular place, no deviation, nothing different. Okay, so if a heat wave has to be there, we will find that because the temperature has to be more than this. Okay, if it is 40 degrees Celsius historically, it has to be 45, 46. Okay, then we will say that it is a heat wave. So first you need to know the normal data, normal weather data, temperature, and then you see the deviation more than that. And even if there is a deviation, then the second comes is attribution. You need to attribute that this deviation is because of the climate change. There is no some other factor that is there. It is purely because of the climate change. You need to have this particular information also. Now, when we talk about the scientist, what they do, basically they compare the real world situation with a counterfactual world. Counterfactual world. Now, what is counterfactual world? Counterfactual world is a hypothetical world without the climate change and its impact. Okay, so they will have an ideal counterfactual world without the climate change and the real world. Okay, and they compare both of these particular worlds data, and then they will come at a conclusion that this deviation or this heat wave or this phenomena is because of the climate change. Now, one issue has come, and the issue is this: scientists though create this counterfactual world, but how they can create this counterfactual world? When it is not possible to create this counterfactual world, never this particular counterfactual world would be accurate. Why? Because you don't have any data with respect to that particular thing, or even if the data is there, the data is very much limited. So point is that a lot of error would be there. Now, this particular article is actually talking on this particular thing only. They say this particular thing that this climate shift index that was prepared, which said that heat waves were due to the climate change, it might not be actually correct. Okay, this is something that has come. Now, secondly, it also says this particular thing that, see, when we talk about the India has best rainfall data among the world countries, but we have a data for entire India, but for every specific region we might not have that particular micro data. For example, data a block wise, village wise data might not be there. We might have data on the country level, but region level, for example, north, west, east, fine, but we might not have data, microclimate data might not be there. So because of this particular thing also, there will be the imperfect models that will be created, imperfect information that will come. Secondly, it says that now the world is transitioning from La Nina to El Nino year. Because of this particular thing also, some changes in temperature etc might come. Then after that, it has also been said that irrigations also affect the heat waves. Okay, irrigation. Okay, irrigation might bring the cooling effect. It might impact the microclimate of a particular region. So they might also impact the temperature. So all these particular things actually have not been taken in account in this CSI, that is the CSI, that is the climate shift index. So now understand this particular thing, guys. See, a lot of decisions in any particular place are taken on the basis of the weather and the climate that is going to play out in that region in the long run. Understand this thing. Okay, whether the new companies should come in Uttar Pradesh or not, whether the farmers should continue growing X crop or they should switch to Y crop. Okay, what developmental policies should be taken by the government. Okay, all these particular things depend on the climate change as how it is playing. So the article says that we need to have more accurate models. We need to have 360-degree view of the climate change that is coming and how it will be impacting heat waves, how it will be impacting rain, how it will be impacting irrigation, agriculture, everything. So this particular model is not accurate as per this article. We need more and more accurate models, and more research, more and more scientific data should be collected with this. It is an important thing. So this is all about this particular article that has been given here. I hope that you have understood it. And now we'll move to the next article. India US deal for 31 MQ9B drones. Okay, we have taken this article earlier also. I will take it now again. Guys, understand this thing. There are two important deals on the military front that have on the arms or military front that have happened between the India and US. Number one is the deal for MQ9B drones, this deal, and second is the deal for manufacturing of the jet engines. Okay, jet engine. Okay, so basically we have seen this particular thing that and this thing, jet engine deal, we have seen last week only. So General Electric GE will be giving the technology and will actually be helping India to make the engines. So General Electric will be collaborating with HAL, that is the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, and they will be jointly making the jet engines for the light combat aircrafts. Light combat aircrafts, that is a separate deal. Okay, we have discussed a lot last week. This article is actually talking about this MQ9B deal, which is little bit different than this below. Okay, now let's understand that what this MQ9B deal is all about. Okay, so understand guys, I'll just give you one scenario. Suppose this is our aircraft carrier. This is our aircraft carrier. Now understand this particular thing, that aircraft carriers, okay, for every nation, aircraft carriers are very important asset, because they are the one who will guard the coastlines of a particular country. They are important to ensure that in exclusive economic zone, no adversary country's warship or such kind of vessel is coming. But the vessels, the ships, aircraft carriers even, they don't have that much speed. So what will happen, from time to time there will be the aircrafts that would take off from these ships. They will carry a kind of a patrol of the entire ocean, of the exclusive economic zone or the nearby sea, and then they will come back on the ship. Fine. At the same time guys, we see, let's say, when we have our land boundaries also, let's say on one hand we have Pakistan, on another hand we have China. So basically the surveillance on the boundaries also is needed to be taken up. Often for these particular surveillance we can use the aircrafts, but understand this thing, using aircraft for surveillance in the land as well as using aircraft for the surveillance in the ocean is often very expensive. It is often very expensive. So there is a kind of a inexpensive alternative, and that alternative is using the drones, unmanned aerial vehicles. They are cost effective. At the same time, they also have a lot of stealth feature. Stealth feature means that many number of times they are undetected by the other countries. Okay, they have such technologies. So using these drones are actually very much economical and affordable and logical. Now what has happened, India has signed the deal with the US, and now India is procuring the MQ9B high altitude long endurance unmanned aerial vehicles, HAL UAV. These UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, will be provided by the General Atomics. Okay, now initial idea is that India will procure 31 of these unmanned aerial vehicles. 31, 16 will be given to the Navy, 16 will be given to the Indian Navy out of, and then sorry 15 will be given to the Navy, and 8 will be given to the Air Force, 8 will be given to the Army. So 31 unmanned aerial vehicles are being procured by the India. Now understand this particular thing, that when we talk about these MQ9B, one very important thing is that they will be assembled in India only. Okay, and they will further enhance the India's capability in terms of intelligence. I told you that we can use them for the surveillance. So in terms of intelligence, surveillance, okay, reconnaissance capabilities, this will help India. Okay, now right now further the General Atomics, which are supplying these UAVs to India, it will also be establishing the comprehensive global maintenance, repair and overhaul facility in India for their repairing, for their upgradation, for their maintenance and all such kind of things. Now guys, understand this particular thing. One thing that I mentioned with you in the start, that is India is also procuring the jet engine technology from the America. There 80% of defense indigenization is being used there. Okay, 80% of components will be manufactured in India. However, in this drone deal, there is right now 8 to 9% of the content would be indigenous, but India is proposing that the indigenous content should be increased from just 8-9% to around 15-20% at least, and there is and we expect that this particular thing will also be agreed. Now what will be the advantage if these many components are being manufactured in India? Now see this thing, by this particular thing, if 15 to 20% components are being manufactured in India, it means that in-house we will manufacture sensors, avionic components. Now these particular sensors, avionic components, electronic components can be used in the drones which India then will manufacture completely indigenously. Moreover, in other components, in other equipments used by the armed forces, these particular components can be used. Okay, so this is all about it. Now the next, when we talk about this MQ9B drone, it has actually two variants. One is the Sky Guardian and other is a Sea Guardian. Now Sea Guardian is this model which will specifically be used by the Navy. Okay, now it has a capability, it can fly over the horizon and can fly up to 40 hours. Okay, and can fly even all the types of weather systems. Okay, can integrate into the civilian airspace with a lot of can in a discrete manner. All these particular things are there. So why we are procuring it is because it will reduce the wear and tear on the manned aircrafts, that wear tear, and it will also be affordable. So therefore we are bringing them. So this is all guys about it. And further on line of actual control, where we find that now a lot of Chinese mobilization is happening, there we can induct these drones and can guard our boundaries even more effectively. That is all about this particular article. Now we'll move to the next article. Okay, how that the Titan tragedy, how did the Titanic tourist submersible operate? Okay, now guys, one thing I want to tell you, that there are a lot of thousands and thousands of videos on YouTube on this particular Titan submersible that has come, giving minute by minute account that okay, what happened, this, that all these particular kind of things. First of all, for exam point of view, you are not required to do that PhD of this Titan episode. The important things that you should know are given in this particular article, and we'll see that. Beyond that, please don't waste your time in this particular issue. First of all, let me tell you some of the basic things first, and then we'll go in this particular article, and from the ethics point of view, what important dimension can open, that also we'll see here. Okay, now basically guys, you might be knowing about the Titanic ship. There was the movie also on the Titanic. So Titanic was a ship that actually sank in 1912 in the Atlantic Ocean. In 1912 in the North Atlantic Ocean, Titan ship sank. So now many of the enthusiasts, they have this particular desire to visit the wreckage of the Titanic under the water. Okay, and on this particular promise, this company by the name of Ocean Gate was formed. The Ocean Gate, they had this particular submersible by the name of Titan. They have this submersible by the name of Titan, and this Titan promised the people that they will take the people to the wreckage of the Titanic ship in the North Atlantic Ocean, which is approximately 4,000 meters below the water. 4,000 meters below the water. And for that, the tickets were sold. Okay, one ticket was $250,000. And what happened recently, Titan, which was operated by its CEO, it made a dive taking 4 people to the wreckage of the Titanic ship. Okay, however, the contact with this particular submersible was broken, and it went missing on 18th of June. Then the reports came that actually it has imploded. Now what is implosion? So there is a difference. One is explosion and other is implosion. One is explosion and other is implosion. Explosion is when anything bursts outside, that is the explosion. For example, explosion of a bomb. Implosion is that when a thing collapses within because of a lot of pressure from the outside. Now understand this particular thing guys, that as this particular submersible will go to the water at lower and lower levels, the pressure of the water will increase. Okay, every meter the pressure of water will increase, and around 4,000 meter depth there was the lot of pressure of the water that was there, and it imploded the it imploded this particular vessel, this submersible. So this implosion happened, and all the people, 4 crew and the captain of this particular submersible, they died on the spot. Okay, so this Titan, what it is a submersible or underwater vehicle which was operated by this company Ocean Gate. Okay, now the company on their website, they said this particular thing, that this particular expedition was meant to document the Titanic ship as well as to inspect the rate of the decay of the Titanic ship on the ocean floor, and they said that they followed all the guidelines of the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, as well as they also followed the guidelines of the UNESCO. Now a question might come in your mind that why UNESCO guidelines come in the place. Understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about the Titanic, the place where the Titanic sank, number one, it is a grave. Okay, it is a grave location, because hundreds of people died there in a tragic and horrific death. So it is a grave place. Second, this wreckage of the Titanic, it is also a historical site also. So you cannot take any souvenir from that particular place. That particular place is to be preserved. So many of the UNESCO guidelines also operate there. So they say that we were following the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration guideline and UNESCO guidelines also. Now, for the exam point of view, we need to understand that what is the difference between this submarine and submersible. Okay, now first of all, guys, understand this thing that the submarines can be submersible, but submersible cannot be submarine. Submarines can be submersible, but submersible cannot be submarines. How? Let's understand this thing in very simple words. So first of all, when we talk about submarine, submarine happens to be big. Submarine happens to be big and independent vehicle. It happens to be the independent vehicle which can take off from a dock, will go under the water, will take its all operation, will come back on the water, and then will go to the dock. It has its own supplies of fuel. It has its own supplies of oxygen. It is a self-contained vehicle. It is a self-contained vehicle. Okay, submarine. But when we talk about the submersible, it is not a self-contained vehicle. It will have a very limited fuel. It will have very limited oxygen. It will have very limited supply, and it is dependent on a bigger ship. So this submersible will be lowered. For example, there will be this big ship. There will be this big ship. Now this submersible will be dependent on this ship. The ship will lower this submersible in the water. Then it will go independently. It will take expedition and will come and again will detach to the ship. Now, when we talk about the Titan, in this particular case, it was a submersible and it was working in collaboration with this particular ship by the name of the Polar Prince. Is it clear or not? Now, when we talk about this particular Titanic, it was so tiny, that the people were not able even they were not able to stand. They have to sit on the floor. There was only one small window from which they can take a view of outside. Moreover, at the bottom of the ocean there is no light, so they have to operate at their own light as well. Secondly, this ship is completely bolted from outside. Okay, and there was only one button. Inside this particular ship. There was a kind of a, even guys, this also thing has come, that there was a kind of a gaming style controller. So as you have PlayStation, so there is a gaming controller that you have when you play the PlayStation games. So such type of controller was there, which was used to operate this particular ship. Okay, and a lot of equipments and components were deliberately not attached with this particular submersible, so that it becomes light. Fine, this is something that is there. Now one more issue is coming here, that many people are also saying that these gaming controller was used in this particular submersible. Now understand this thing, it is very common. Many number of times the drone operators, even the navy personnel, robot operators use these particular gaming controllers because they are cheap, easy to buy, and they are also very much intuitive to the hand movements. Okay, now the point is that, guys, that when we talk about this particular submersible, the issue that came here is that it was not worthy of taking the expedition to 4,000 meters of depth. Okay, this issue is coming, and this particular thing was also raised in 2018 by one of an employee by the name of the David Lockridge. So David Lockridge said that this particular ship is not fit to go to 4,000 meters of the depth. Maximum, they said that it might go to the 1300 meters of the depth. But after that particular thing, this employee was removed. Okay, and eventually this fateful event has happened. Now guys, it has opened up one ethical dimension also. What ethical dimension? Ethical dimension of the dark tourism. Now first of all, dark tourism means visiting to the sites which are the sites of horror, okay, or the sites of death, visiting those sites, that is the dark tourism. So the ethics of dark tourism, okay, that many companies promising such expeditions, is it ethical? You are making money on the miseries of the people. So this is also one dimension that has opened up. I hope that you have understood it. And now moving to the next article. Okay, so we have this editorial article, outreach to diaspora and statesmanship. Now one thing guys, I want to tell you that today's editorials, they are very abstract kind of editorials. Some days editorial, they have a lot of factual and concrete information which can directly be used in the exam. Sometimes editorials are more idea based or abstract. Okay, so today's article are something like that only. Okay, so now this particular article guys, will see with respect to the GS paper number 2, GS paper number 2, issues related to the diaspora. In our exam also, directly that issues related to diaspora has been given. Now, first of all, what there is some context that I want to tell you. What has happened recently? The Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu had said this thing, that the government of Tamil Nadu would protect the Tamil diaspora at every cost. Okay. First of all, what is the meaning of diaspora? Diaspora are the people of one country that are living in another country. For example, Indian people living in America, China, UK, France, Germany, they all are Indian diaspora. So every country has its diaspora, that is their overseas people. Okay. Now, Tamil diaspora means Tamilian people who are living in the other countries. Now, when we talk about amongst the Indian diaspora, Tamil diaspora or Tamilians, they constitute a huge number, a substantial number, and this is the list of all the countries where the Tamilian diaspora are. For example, they are having huge population in Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Mauritius, South Africa. Fine, so these are all the countries where the Tamilian diaspora are living. Now, when we talk about the Tamilian diaspora, basically, or the diaspora, they have three identities. First of all, there is the Tamil identity, then there is the Indian identity, and then there is the identity of the country in which they are living. Okay. Now, now the article is saying this particular thing. The article is saying this particular thing, that it is very shallow. It is very shallow, and it is very simple to assume that the Indian living outside, they all have one type of or common problems. Every person's problems are unique, they are different. Okay, so they are not the common problem. So when the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu is saying that we will solve all their problems, you need to understand that their problems are hugely complex, and to solve them all in by one particular way is not possible. It has been said that when we talk about the people, they are closely related, because all are them migrants. Fine. But after that, their education, their professional attainments, their economic situation, okay, all they are slightly different. The Tamil diaspora, they have excelled in politics, economics, everything, that is good. Okay, but at the same time, when we talk about the diaspora, protecting the diaspora, making the policy for the diaspora, all such kind of a thing, it comes under the jurisdiction of the central government. Though state government can influence, state government can exert pressure, state government can lobby the central government that the diaspora of a particular state, these are their concerns and these policies should be made. But at the end, the policy will be made only by the central government. Now, the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister has highlighted the necessity to protect and promote the Tamil language of the people living in those countries. But the problem or the issue that comes here is that in many of the countries, the Tamil community themselves have forgotten the Tamil language. So, first of all, the people themselves should be willing to protect the language and cultural elements. Only then the government's effort would be effective. And the right now need of our is that state and central government all should come together and should form the policy for the protection of our diaspora and for the preservation of their culture and as well as for their betterment. So this is all guys about this particular article. Beyond that, much is not there here. Okay. Now, moving to the next article. Okay, the United States of India. Now this particular article guys again is talking about the cultural elements. It is again talking about the identity of the people, north versus south identity and all such kind of things. Now, fine. Let's understand this thing. So basically, when we talk about guys the north and the south, we often find that there is a divide between the north and south identity. There is a distinct North Indian identity and a South Indian identity. And why this particular divide comes in between, it has been said that divide is because of the language of politics. For example, we have Dravidian language towards the south, and we have distinctly Hindi, okay, and Hindi language and Aryan languages into the north. So because of that language, a divide has come. Then second is the regional parties. Now regional parties play a very important role in the South India. Regional parties are dominant in north also, but not that much. Then in the South India, we also find that the demand of more power to the states, okay, this is also issue is there, fine. So these are largely the issues that are there. After that, there are also the counter cultures that are there within the southern India, and the counter cultures, they have played a very important role. For example, the anti-caste movement, anti-brahminical movement, rationalist movement, okay, all these movements have been there. Then the South India also have a higher economic status. They have the higher investments into the education, modern institution, particularly when we talk about the Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu's enrollment into the higher education stands at around 52-53%, and the national average of enrollment in higher educational institution is just 27%. So nearly double is there in the Tamil Nadu. So these are some distinct features. Now, the article talks about some of the observations made by the historic leaders. For example, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So the article says that Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in 1956 argued that the north was conservative, superstitious, educationally backward, and south was progressive, rational, and educationally forward. Again, it is not my views, so don't curse me that I am saying this thing. It is the views of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar reported in this particular article. Okay. As well as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar also criticized the Jawaharlal Nehru for practicing the Brahminical ritual, and even President Rajendra Prasad for worshipping the Brahminical traditions. According to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, these particular things will further cement the caste consciousness, caste identity, superstitionism, ritualism, all these particular things. This was the belief of the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Then further, it has also been provided that even today we find this particular thing, that the north, it is nurturing the hardliner Hindutva politics. This is something that is continuing from that particular kind of line. Now, when we talk about guys South India, okay, in North India we find that the divides is there on the name of religion, on the name of caste. Fine, there are so much of the fragmented identities in the north, but in south what has happened, linguistic identity, language identity is something which have proven to be more secular and flexible. Okay, person from X religion, person from Y religion, person from Z religion will speak one kind of a language. So linguistic identity happens to be more secular and it binds more people. So southern leaders have consciously cultivate the linguistic identity because it caters to more and more people. That is something that is there. Now, the article further says that in a democracy, for a democracy to function properly, it is always essential that the language of the common people is to be employed in most of the places. For example, in education, judiciary, government, you need to employ the language of the common people. Okay. But in this particular thing, guys, the understanding largely of the leaders has been to include Hindi. We think that the Hindi is a language that can unite all the people together. It is a language of judiciary, language of common people, language of education. But the article is further saying that it is not true. It is not true. Fine, the Hindi could keep all together. It is a fallacy. Okay, we need to recognize that apart from one language, there can be the multiple languages that have to be used. Okay, so the article is a mix of linguistic identities, culture, north-south divide, and all such kind of things. So this article is more like an essay on the multiculturalism. Fine, that is about it. And now moving to the next article. Retail giant helps link 8 lakh producers to market, farm group skeptical. Now this article will see with respect to the GS paper number 3, agricultural marketing, and some examples or the case study with respect to the agricultural marketing we are going to see here in this particular article. Let's understand it. Okay, so basically guys, here there are two examples that have been given. One example is of this TechnoServe Another example is of this digital green. So this TechnoServe, it is a non-profit organization. This organization, it is operating in 30 countries and it is helping the farmers to organize together in the farm producer organization, FPO. These are the groupings where the farmers come together, they will grow a particular crop and collectively will sell that particular crop. Okay. So what it is doing, this TechnoServe, it is a non-profit organization working in 30 countries and it is associating with the coffee farmers in the Araku Valley in Andhra Pradesh. And since that, it has given certain it has helped the farmers to organize in FPOs and their revenues have increased by 500%. Revenues have increased by 500%. Then this digital green, it is working with the cashew farmers. It is working with the cashew farmers in the Andhra Pradesh and has helped in increasing 13% increase in their cashew prices. Okay. Now, both of these organizations, TechnoServe and Digital Green, it is working closely with the Walmart. It is working closely with the Walmart, which is a retail giant. It funds these operations and all such kind of things. Now, guys, we know this particular thing that the Walmart, it is a supermarket. It is a retail giant based in America. It has tried to enter in India also, but there is a lot of protest against the Walmart, that if Walmart will come, what will be of the local shop owners, local kirana shops, local departmental shops? They would be wiped out of the competition. Now, the Walmart is helping these particular non-profit companies. Now, the article and many of the critics say this particular thing, that these NGOs are working as the instrument of the Walmart, and by them the Walmart will try to enter India. Walmart wants to enter the agriculture market in India. So therefore, Walmart is trying to know the agriculture and all such kind of things, and therefore they have sent this particular NGOs. Now, guys, understand this particular thing, that criticism will always be there. Criticism will always be there, but the example of these two organizations here is important and you can use it in your answers of GS paper number 3. So that is all about it. I hope that you have understood it. And now moving to the next article. Vikram Pragyan to return for another tryst with the moon. So we'll see this particular article with respect to the GS paper number 3, Science and Tech, as well as for the prelims examination, Science and Tech. Now, first of all, much information is not there in this particular article, guys. Let me tell you, first of all, some of the basic background information that you should know. So basically, guys, you might be knowing about the Chandrayaan 1. Now, Chandrayaan 1 was responsible for the discovery of water on the moon. Then Chandrayaan 2 was attempted in 2019. But Chandrayaan 2, misfortunately, was not able to perform what was expected out of it. Why? Because of the malfunctioning that came into the lander and rover. Okay. Now, what is the lander and rover? Okay. So basically, guys, the lander is a probe that will land on the moon. And then there will be the rover. What is a rover? Rover is a kind of a probe that will then travel on the moon and will collect the samples. Now, when we talk about the Chandrayaan 2 has Vikram, which was the lander, and Pragyan was the rover. Rover's name was Pragyan and the lander's name was Vikram. Vikram was named after Vikram Sarabhai, the father of the Indian space program. Okay. Now, the Chandrayaan 2 was not able to perform its operation because the landing of the Vikram was not a soft landing, and upon the impact, the rover was not able to dismantle out of the Vikram. Okay, so this was a problem and Chandrayaan 2 was not able to perform what was expected. Now, Chandrayaan 3 is being launched and Chandrayaan 3 would be launched somewhere around in the July. Now it has been said that the Chandrayaan 3 lander and rover will also be named as Vikram and Pragyan. Chandrayaan 3's lander and rover will also be named as Vikram and Pragyan. So lander will be named as Vikram and rover will be named as Pragyan. Okay, so Chandrayaan 2 lander and rover were disfigured, were not able to launch because of the Vikram that crashed onto the lunar surface. Okay, now it will be launched in July and it will be launched onto the LVM-3, okay, rocket from the Sri Harikota. Clear. So nothing much important. When it will be launched, we'll see what are the key takeaways from that particular launch. However, the payloads that will be carried on this particular probe will be these. Okay, so just you can read that from the notes. So this is all about this particular article, and however much important thing is not there, just only one liner concept that the lander and rover on the Chandrayaan 3, they will have the same name as the Chandrayaan 2, Vikram and Pragyan, just that is. Then coming to the main practice question for today. The question reads, in protecting the interests of the Indian diaspora, state governments need to work with the central government. Comment. This will be a GS paper number 2 10 marker question. So that is all guys about it, and with this we come to an end to the today's session. So that is all guys for the today. I hope that you have understood it. Thank you so much.